an A/B team, on Christopher's team, we set our own brief through a process of collaboration and intense carefully. And the brief that we arrived at was we started with a problem. And the problem was that design is not being used to serve humanity in attaining a better life. And we don't mean all of design, and there is some design that is doing this, but to a large extent, this is what we feel the problem with design at the moment is. So what we wanted to do is, okay, that's the problem, so what's the theory that we have in terms of changing it? So what we want to do is we want to bring ethics and responsibility into design to improve life with a net positive effect on social resources, economic resources, and material resources. So it's not minimizing damage, we want it to be positive. And so our plan and the concept that we had and the actions that we were hoping to follow up on, and we have followed up on, was designing the designer. And that's what we're looking at here. So how do we design, how do we design the designer? So the first thing we looked at was, okay, we have necessity and we have, that leads us into an opportunity. So what opportunities are we looking for and how do we create these opportunities? This was a sort of a long process that we went through. So what we decided was, okay, what we need is to work out some steps that we can take. So we need design evaluation models. We need to look at what is design, what is the role of the designer, and we need to start sort of, planning for that. And we need to develop a range of appropriate scenarios or contexts. So we need to develop situations in which the designer in training can experience the different things that we're talking about, can experience various different contexts, can experience working with different community groups, and so we've developed a plan for research models that will or research projects, I should say, that will lead to this development of these scenarios and contexts. We need to develop and test appropriate design skill sets. We had a big long debate about what is facilitation, what is collaboration, where do facilitation and collaboration meet in terms of the designer's role, moving away from the idea of the designer as kind of an autocrat who imposes their vision on people. We want to look at the designer as a facilitator and as a collaborator, drawing out people's own experience and bringing their own technical bringing their own technical skill set to that. And then we want to develop a community of practice. So it's not good enough just to do this here. We need to spread it out and we need to put those ideas out there. So, have I skipped a slide? I think I have. I did skip a slide, sorry. I skipped 2 slides. Oh dear, sorry. I'm going backwards. Okay, this is how not to do a presentation. Right, what we were thinking, sorry about this. What we were thinking was the justification. Why do we need to change the role of the designer in the first place? So we have this idea of design as something that's nice. It makes things look nice. It's about styling. And we want to move to design that's important, that's crucial, that does things, that changes things. In terms of the value model, we were looking at, well, design predominantly seems to work with an economic value model, and we need to look at how do we bring the social into that. And particularly in a situation where the economic models that we have seems to be breaking down, maybe we need to look outside that altogether. And in terms of then the importance of the design stage, we have approximately 80% of the environmental or social impact of a product or service is determined at the design stage. So as designers, we've got a crucial role in looking at the effect that a product has or service. And basically, it's good business because if we develop new ideas, if we can target new people, if we can look at new values, we're creating new business and we're creating new opportunities. So all of this makes a lot of sense. In terms of how, as I say, this idea of the designer as a facilitator, as a guide, as a collaborator, all those processes. We want to look at experiential context-based training. So we want to look at designers in training actually going out and working with people. We want to look at a real-world environment. We don't want to take it beyond the doors and the walls of the college. We want to look at creative partnerships. So who can we get involved with? Are there design agencies we can get involved with? Are there other design teams? Are there design networks, internationally? So can we get out there and can we link our ideas with other people? And can we bring academia and the community together so that it's not we're in here and they're out there. It's that we can learn from them, they can learn from us, and we can collaborate in that way. I can't work this mouse at all. I should have stuck with the buttons. Sorry. Okay, so what we thought was then we have this process, we have this vision of the process where we have the community, we have the academy, and we have the creative process. And we have the arrows going in one direction, but they could go in both directions, and actually they should. And so in terms of the community, we're talking about the business community, we're talking about the industry, we're talking about social communities, we're talking about the physical communities on the doorstep of the college, we're talking about sort of the broader global community, we're talking about cultural communities as well, so design communities as well, and all those people are involved in that single word, community. So it's a very inclusive approach to community. And then the creative process, we are talking about, making that process something that's going in two directions between the community and the academy. And we're looking at, the knowledge that each of these sort of partners have and the different context in which we're operating, so the economic context, the social context. And we're looking at different kinds of approaches to research, different ways of researching. We're looking at knowledge transfer, we're looking at experimentation and testing, we're looking at reflective practice, and that's a really important part of this whole thing, is the evaluation of it. So as I said before, this may have a sense of déjà vu about it, so this is what we're looking for, is how do we actually bring this forward? What are the steps that we take? And so we have come up with 5 ideas for research projects which we can use to get this project started, to think about redesigning the designer. All of these projects are group projects. They're all multi-stakeholder projects, and they're all designed to lead into an actual physical change in terms of how teaching happens, and not just sort of a module here and there. We're talking about the core principles of how designers are educated. So one research project is, what is the role of facilitation and collaboration in the design process? As I say, we got stuck into a very intense discussion about where does facilitation end, where does collaboration begin, are the two of them intertwined? So this is definitely something that is worth launching a research project into. We have the role of design in the decision-making process. So this idea that, design is something that happens after the brief has been drawn up. And we need to look at, well, actually, can we look at having a role for designers before that? Can we have a look at having a role for designers where, the financial people are sitting down with the management people around a table and coming up with ideas as to what they want? So that's something that we need to research and develop new ideas about. We also need to look at, how do we develop pedagogical models for real-life projects? So we don't want the students sitting in here being talked at by a lecturer. We need a situation where the students are being given a chance to develop their own briefs, they're working with communities, they're working with other designers in the design community. So we need to look at, how do we do that? And there are existing models out there. We've got science shops in Europe, we've got the whole idea of service learning, which is so big in America, we've got chaos pilots. And so there are models out there, and what we need to do is look at them and evaluate them and figure out what's the best way to go. Do we want to adopt all of them? Do we want to create something new? And so that's a very important part of it. And then we have an idea for Everyone is a Designer initiative. This is to sort of give people a sense of, everybody does design. We all, anytime you go into a shop, we're evaluating the merits of different designs. Every time you choose between two things, you're evaluating design. And we all do design, because then we take them home and we use them in new and different ways sometimes. And we find ways to arrange them and make sense of them. So that's an initiative that we want to look at rolling out right across the country, right across the population, highest levels to lowest levels. We want to promote the idea that we all do design, we all know design, and that then will feed back into the other ideas as well, and rethinking the role of the designer. And then, of course, because we need to make this reflective, we need collaborative, ongoing evaluation of each of those 4 research projects and initiative. And then that will feed back into the cycle, and we'll have more of this process and more research initiatives developing out of it. And hopefully that will turn into a whole new breed of designers who will be using design for good and to have positive effects and improve people's lives. Thank you.